The Lord be with you. And with your spirit. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. When Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of King Herod, behold, Magi from the east traveled in Jerusalem, saying, "Where is the newborn King of the Jews? We saw his star at its rising, and we've come to do him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was greatly troubled, and with him all Jerusalem. Assembling all the chief priests and the scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Christ was to be born. They said to him, "In Bethlehem of Judea, for thus it's been written through the prophet, and you, Bethlehem, land of Judah, are by no means least among the tribes of Judah, since from you shall come a ruler who is to shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod called the Magi secretly and ascertained from them the time of the star's appearance. He sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go, search diligently for the child, and when you have found him, bring me word that I too may go do him homage." After their audience with the king, they set out, and behold, the star that they had seen at its rising preceded them until it came and stopped over the place where the child was. They were overjoyed at seeing the star, and on entering the house they saw the child with Mary his mother. They prostrated themselves and did him homage. Then they opened their treasures and offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they departed for their country by another way. The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. And a Happy New Year. You know, I think these are great readings to start the new year. You know, today's the feast of the Epiphany, and it's one of the manifestation feasts. And to be manifested means to be revealed. And each of these readings depicts God being revealed, and it's always in the response. In the first reading, we hear about the Israelites who have been released from decades of captivity in Babylon, and they're free to go home. God's blessed them, and all these others are coming to share in their joy. In the second reading, Paul is reminding a young church that all of us share in Jesus' promise of salvation. It's not just the Jewish people. And then the gospel tells the visit of the Magi, coming from different parts of the world, all people coming together, and it ends with them all leaving by a different route after they've had this encounter with the Lord. So collectively, what we're hearing is that we who see God's work and see God's magnificence in the world, we're accountable for what we've seen. And we're called to respond. We're called to go home differently. And it's in our response that God's made known, especially made known to others. So I'd like to share a couple examples of this idea of God being revealed and how we respond to it. The first story is about Leonard Oliver. Now, he was a priest who was temporarily assigned to the largest black parish in Louisiana. And he's white, and he was having a very hard time of it. You know, the people did not like losing their pastor in the first place, and they didn't like him. And after a while, a group of them went to the bishop. Well, it was sometime later that the Pope's representative in the U.S. gives him a call, and he says, "The Holy Father has named you auxiliary bishop of Washington, D.C." And at first, he's thinking this probably has something to do with all the trouble, the present state of affairs in Louisiana. And he says, you know, I'm in the middle of a really messy situation down here. And he says, yes, Father. And if you become bishop, someone else can take care of it. He says, are you sure you got the right man? There's another Father Oliver about 20 miles down. He said, I spell my name with 2 I's. He said, no, we have the right man. We know how to spell your name, Father. But I'm 65 years old. What's that got to do with it? But I'm not a good preacher. I'm not a forceful leader. He says, Father, the cardinal wants someone who's pastoral and closer to his age. Now, I'll give you a couple days to think about it, but you know, you ought to listen to the Holy Father. So he takes this into consideration, and he goes and decides he's going to see his spiritual advisor and get some counsel. And after a long conversation, he told him, you know, you should probably do what you're asked. And so he did. So that's one example. The other example is from a poem by T.S. Eliot, and it's called The Journey of the Magi. And this is an excerpt from it. A cold coming we had of it, just the worst time of year for a journey, and such a long journey. The ways were deep, the weather sharp, the very dead of winter. The camels were galled, sore-footed, and refractory, laying down in the melting snow. The camelmen were cursing and grumbling, running away, wanting their liquor and women. And the night fires going out, and the lack of shelters, the cities hostile, the towns unfriendly, the villages dirty, and the prices high. A hard time we had of it. At the end, we preferred to travel all night, sleeping in watches, all the time with voices ringing in our ears saying that this was all folly. So, what's the connection between the two examples? Both of them are calls. There's God calling in both of those. And both of them are answered. And in that response, God is revealed. We'll find that out in a minute. In the response, though, is the epiphany, the aha moment. In the response is the manifestation, the making God known. Because it's in our response to the callings of God, all the little ones that we get every day. That's where God's revealed. It always is. Each of us has a vocation to follow. And I think we know what that means. You know, for some, they're called to a married life. Others might be called to ministry. Some maybe to be a technician or a tradesperson or a teacher or a lawyer. But God is always calling us, every minute of every day, because God is love, and love is a dialogue. It's an ongoing conversation. It just doesn't happen at these major events and questions of our lives. It goes on all the time. And it's not just for the saints or the people that we think are better or good. They're not the only ones that hear his voice. We all do, because each of us is loved. We sinners are loved, and a star shines and rises for us just as much, even when we reap the consequences of some of our own stupidity, even when we taste the unpleasant results of some of our own actions. God's always there too, probably more than ever. God has this insatiable love for sinners, and he never gives up on any of us. God made the human heart good. And God has a mind to heal the hurt heart and the bruised, the cold, the hostile, the sinful heart. That's why he came. A star still shines, and when it's responded to, God's there. That's what Epiphany means. And of course, there's always going to be the Herods who are going to try to deny it and try to kill it. So now if we go back to the stories, when God called Father Oliver, calls him out of the blue, he couldn't believe it. He says, you know, my problems have reached your ears. You know, you got the wrong guy. You got the wrong name. I'm too old. I'm not competent. In every case, kind of the answer was, so what else is new? Which of us is? The message for all of us is that, you know, whether we're the saddest of sinners or we're the biggest wannabe of saints, we need to keep our eye and pay attention on the dark sky, you know, in the deepest night, in our saddest hours, in our loneliest times, you know, maybe when a relationship collapses or a loved one's dead. Maybe your finances are all gone or sickness has come. Maybe your life's on the rocks. You can always be sure that God is there. All we need to do is start looking and respond. The looking and the response is what reveals him in the little things every day. Now, Bishop Oliver later said, you know, the people have accepted me here. They've supported me. I've been here for 7 years. It's been the happiest years of my life. The wise men in Eliot's poem, if you go on and read it, they go on to say, you know, all this was a very long time ago. I remember, and I would do it again. This birth was hard and bitter for us, like a death, our death. And I would gladly have another. You see, even when the light seems to darken and lead to death, it doesn't. It's a birth. So as we start this new year, please know that each one of us is loved, each one of us is called, and in our response, God is always revealed.